Florence, you're starting off with the Independent from the UK.
That's right. The storm is on the front page of lots of newspapers today, including the Independent, which says shock and awe. And on the front page there, you see there's several very striking photos taken during the hurricane and now with the aftermath flooding. Superstorm, of course. Superstorm now. The International Herald Tribune also has Superstorm Sandy on the cover. They say that a daunting recovery begins. More impressive photos there. And the Wall Street Journal Europe has a very striking photo there of a statue of the Virgin Mary among debris. Now, damage has been estimated at about $20 billion for the moment. And a lot of organizations have taken to social media like Twitter and Facebook to keep people updated on what's going on. For instance, the MTA, so the Metropolitan Transportation Authority in New York City, they've tweeted several times. For instance, here's a tweet that they did last night saying, express buses will operate at near normal strength tomorrow. Customers should be prepared for detours due to road and tunnel conditions. So for now, it's unclear exactly when the whole subway network will be working again. FEMA is also tweeting, FEMA, of course, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. They're handing out safety tips. For instance, don't walk or wade through floodwaters because it can contain harmful toxins, chemicals, etc.
So like you say, a lot of organisations, they're using social networking sites, particularly Twitter, but there has been criticism about the way some of the media has been covering the storm.
That's right. The Atlantic points out that they point out a case against sending TV reporters out into the hurricane. They say that this actually just puts the journalists in danger. It doesn't really add any extra value. And we were seeing a lot of images like this one. Here's CNN, the correspondent Ali Velshi. He was reporting from Atlantic City, and it says that there's no real value here. It's just it's entertainment actually. It's dangerous for the journalist, and it's dangerous for people such as the people behind the journalists here in the pictures who think that because the journalist is there, it's safe for them as well to go out into the storm.
And a lot of media also focusing on how the federal government has been handling the situation.
That's right. Now, so far it seems that a lot of media think that the federal government did a pretty good job. A lot of authorities as well think that the federal government did a good job, including Chris Christie, so the Republican governor of New Jersey. Now, it's surprising because he's a big supporter of Mitt Romney, but he's applauded Obama for the way he dealt with the crisis. For instance, you can see here a tweet. He said, I want to thank the president personally for his assistance as we recover from the storm.
And this takes us to the US election. It's just a few days away. Obviously, the two candidates have been affected and their schedules. Things aren't quite going to plan. And what are the papers saying about that then?
Well, of course, Mitt Romney has started campaigning again today. Barack Obama's waiting until tomorrow to get back on the campaign trail. Now, it's unclear exactly just what Superstorm Sandy is going to do for them, how it's going to affect the polls. But Romney is already starting to receive a little bit of criticism for comments he made back in 2011 during the Republican Party primary regarding FEMA's budget. And I think we'll listen to this right now.
FEMA's about to run out of money, and there are some people who say do it on a case-by-case basis, and some people who say, maybe we're learning a lesson here that the states should take on more of this role. How do you deal with something like that?
Absolutely. Every time you have an occasion to take something from the federal government and send it back to the states, that's the right direction. We should take all of what we're doing at the federal level and say, what are the things we're doing that we don't have to do? And those things we've got to stop doing.
Now, the New York Times lashed out at Romney for these comments in their editorial. They say that a big storm requires a big government, and they say that Superstorm Sandy is proof that Romney's policies are reckless and off track. Now, New York Magazine has an interesting piece that says that Democrats should actually politicize Sandy, because for now everyone is kind of not wanting to seem like they're electioneering here. The New York Magazine says that they actually should, to show how Republican strategy aren't on course. So for now, it's unclear exactly how all this is actually going to play out on next Tuesday, but they could very well tip the balance. And there's an interesting cartoon in the International Herald Tribune that points this out. You see there the election map of 2012. There's Superstorm Sandy hurtling into a map of the country. And in the bottom there, you see another mini superstorm hurtling into the undecided voters. So according to this cartoon, the storm could very well shake up the way undecided voters are going to vote, and therefore maybe be the kingmaker of the election.
Okay, thank you very much, Florence Villamino. Let's move on to some other world news now. Lakhdar Brahimi is in China, and a little earlier, the peace envoy to Syria said he hoped Beijing would play an active role in ending the violence. China has, along with Russia, vetoed UN resolutions on the conflict 3 times. Brahimi met China's foreign minister in Beijing a few weeks after Yang Jiechi said on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly that political dialogue is the only way forward. Now, those talks came a day after more government airstrikes in Syria. Activists say they caused at least 18 deaths in Douma near Damascus. Airstrikes in the capital too, with jets used for the first time, according to rebels, and clashes were reported in several suburbs. Also on Tuesday, the Free Syrian Army said it was behind the death of a senior Air Force general in Damascus a day earlier. Here's more from our correspondent in the region, Lucy Fielder.
It's widely believed that the government is using more and more airstrikes since summer because the rebels are holding more and more territory, and obviously they're striking areas or rebel positions that they can't reach using ground troops. It may also reflect the very high numbers of casualties among the Syrian army. Yesterday, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, an opposition group, reported 41 dead soldiers killed in clashes and killed also in by explosive devices, roadside bombs. So that could be another reason. Others also put it down to overstretch. The army's trying to control various different areas of the country all at the same time. So we saw yesterday the first use, or what's reported to be the first use, of airstrikes inside Damascus proper in the area of Jobar, which is close to Zamalka, which is held by the rebels. There were also airstrikes reported on Douma, which is a Damascus suburb, a satellite town just outside the city, where some 18 civilians are believed to have been killed. Images from there showed people scrabbling over the rubble, trying to get bodies out from underneath the rubble. That death toll, which includes 5 women and 4 children, according to activists, is expected to rise. But airstrikes were reported across the country. The rebels also went on the offensive against the Air Force, assassinating yesterday, according to state media and the Free Syrian Army, a Syrian Air Force commander, Abdullah Mahmoud al-Khalidi, who was killed in the suburb of Ruknuddin in Damascus as he got out of his car.
Rwandan opposition leader Victoire Ingabire has been sentenced to 8 years in prison. On Tuesday, 2.5 years after her arrest, she was found guilty of conspiring to harm the country through war and terror and belittling the 1994 genocide. Ingabire was not in court to hear the verdict. She boycotted the trial, saying it was politically motivated. Benjamin Netanyahu and François Hollande are set for their first face-to-face talks later. Topping the agenda, Iran's controversial nuclear program. This a day before Israel's Prime Minister heads to Toulouse to attend a memorial service for 4 Jews shot dead in March.
A day ahead of his trip to France, Benjamin Netanyahu said a preemptive military strike on Iran would ease tensions across the Middle East. In fact, the Iranian nuclear issue is likely to be a high priority in discussions between the Israeli Prime Minister and French President François Hollande on Wednesday. Israel's repeatedly warned that Tehran's controversial atomic program's a cover for them to build a bomb. It's also threatened to attack Iran's nuclear sites, though has said it'll give international sanctions another chance, putting off a strike to next year. Netanyahu and Hollande will also be talking anti-terror, with the Israeli premier set for a memorial trip to Toulouse, where a teacher and 3 French-Israeli children died during an attack by an Islamist gunman in March. There are still likely to be a few contentious issues, however, notably peace talks with the Palestinians that have stalled for 2 years, and Israel's reluctance to halt its construction in the West Bank.
Now, international observers in Ukraine have been denied access to the jailed opposition leader Yulia Tymoshenko. She's on hunger strike in protest against this week's parliamentary election results.
Ukrainian police screening visitors to the clinic where Yulia Tymoshenko is being held. She was transferred here for medical reasons. Alongside her supporters, a delegation from the Western observer body, the OSCE, also tried to get in. They too were rebuffed. The Ukrainian authorities cancelled the visit. They say that the former prime minister and opposition leader needs constant medical surveillance because of the hunger strike she began on Monday. For the OSCE, that's a human rights violation.
She's not offending anybody. She's just making a political request concerning the elections. So this is against the human rights principle that all OSCE countries should respect.
Tymoshenko began her hunger strike as a protest against what she calls a fraudulently run election, a view largely shared by the OSCE's observers.
We were speaking about the democratic regression in this country. And unfortunately today, with this fact that we cannot meet Mrs. Tymoshenko, this is once again proved right.
The OSCE dispatched over 600 observers to Ukraine. Their conclusion, the vote was a step backwards for democracy in the country. As well as the fact opposition leader Tymoshenko is in jail, they condemned a biased media, as well as state resources being used to support the ruling party. President Viktor Yanukovych has shrugged off that criticism. His region's party and its allies are on track to win a parliamentary majority. That comes in part at the expense of Yulia Tymoshenko. In jail for corruption since 2011, she was unable to campaign. Her party is expected to come second, but lose a considerable number of seats.
You're watching live from Paris. A reminder of our top story.